Banana slam jam.
We also have Brian talking about the same thing. It is all about momentum.
Thank you, Sheever. When I saw these drafts, I was wondering how the heck do we even get to the late game, as there's so much laning prowess from T1 and so much greed and late game from Team Spirit, that as we watch bottom lane, this is going to be the dynamic of the entire early game, where Yatoro is just going to be constantly getting bullied. As we fast forward, he takes 400 damage in the first creep wave. We go to the next creep wave, and he gets Tidebringered again. We go to the next creep wave, and he just gets hit. He has to dodge a torrent, and then he gets hit by 5 auto attacks from Cuckoo. The pressure on bottom lane started as early as the first creep wave, and it kept going. And the story for me of this was how T1 continuously pressured. Yatoro's going to die a minute and a half into the game, and what is Yatoro going to do? How is he ever going to get online? And that's where Team Spirit really shows their understanding of this pressure. So yes, he's going to get level 6 on Cuckoo. They're going to go for the kill. Yatoro's going to narrowly escape. First bullet dodged. He's going to get salved up, and they're going to run it back. So the important thing about this amount of pressure is that Team Spirit has to dedicate resources in the early game to stopping it from happening. So they're going to rotate in Mira, and even though they're not going to get this kill, they're just going to make it so Cuckoo is distracted, make it so he's less than half HP and doesn't feel the power that he needs to be able to pressure. That's step one. Second step is, now that PL's level 6 and he's allowed to leave lane, we've got buddy syndrome going here. We got to make sure that we help our PL when he's in lane. But now it's Miposhka's turn. He's the one in lane. This is danger zone. It's Yatoro's time to come back from the jungle. He's a carry, helping out a support, just fending off Cuckoo. Say, get away from our tier 1 tower. Because as long as you keep this tier 1 tower alive, no matter how strong the opponent's laning phase is, you will have time to farm. Toronto Tokyo rotates bottom as his first major rotation and gets a kill on Cuckoo, further stopping this momentum. So what ends up happening is Mikosha gets to sit underneath his tower for minutes. He's here from 11 minutes. I'm fast forwarding in the replay. I'm fast forwarding through the fast forwarding of my replay. And we still see Miposhka just sitting underneath his tower, keeping it alive. And all this time, Team Spirit is allowed to make plays and also farm on the PL. And eventually, they get their defusal. And right as they kill the tower, Yatoro actually is able to come back in and help again, further slowing down the momentum. So what was most impressive to me about this game was Team Spirit's ability to fend off the immense pressure from T1, and it allowed them to even take those awesome team fights in the late game. As you see, they're up in kills, and they were still barely clinging on to the game. Thank you, Sheever. In this game, I want to talk about informed decision-making, the power of vision and overall information. So we're going to get going from the 7-minute mark, where we see a 3-man gank from Team Spirit. And it's important to note what T1 sees here. We see 2 heroes with low mana and no HP. And so what that means is anywhere else on the map, whoever they see is alone. So you're going to see an odd scenario where 23 Savage is chasing a level 6 Night Stalker with ultimate. But this was shortly after that bottom gank, and he knows that there's just no way that Team Spirit could have brought resources to the top lane. And this is going to effectively shut down the early momentum that the hero like Night Stalker is supposed to gain with the power spikes from his ultimate. So then we see that they emphasize shutting down the source of vision, which is everything that Team Spirit's lineup is predicated on, as Collapse has ultimate at 11.5 minutes in the game, and T1 is going to bring a 4-man smoke that is going to abruptly bring him down. And then we're going to see, because he died there, that Collapse is going to TP bottom, which means that for the fight top that T1 saw there is a Night Stalker bottom, there's still a TP on cooldown, as we're going to see that they start this fight, and we're going to ping over to Night Stalker just real quick and see a 14-second cooldown TP. He cannot be at this fight, and T1, because they have this information, is completely willing to take a fight, even though there is this threat of diving if you look at the rest of Team Spirit's lineup, but they can't be there. Now, Zephyr, who's placed a high ground ward, has decided to camp it, and the rest of T1 is ready to defend it. Notice how they always defend their vision, and the source of vision for Team Spirit is top. So we're just seeing a better organization and better handling of the vision game in the early game coming out from T1, and they're going to go ahead and clean up this fight. And now Whitemon, who's pushing bottom, he's going to have a ward behind him. And this is where the vision starts to go in favor of Team Spirit, where they end up killing the Enchantress. And now Yatoro turns that kill into an invis find onto the Zephyr, where he's going to kill him too. And this is all about what they see on the map. And so even though T1 spent the entire early game accruing this massive lead, they suddenly bleed one Enchantress kill from Vision behind him. Then they bleed another kill with lack of sentries against the Invis Silver Edge. And now they're going to turn the first kill into a Wyvern kill and the second kill into a TA kill, utilizing the Night Stalker's ultimate to give him vision of the RP. And suddenly that 6k net worth lead that is accrued by the early outplay when it comes to the vision from T1 has suddenly gone right back in favor of Team Spirit as they die one by one on the side of T1. And it eventually becomes too hard to handle because when they have global map hacks of Night Stalker's vision, they're going to get the initiation, they're going to cast their spells better than you, and it's just something you can't overcome, and that's how important vision and information is.
You know what? This is all about learning and lessons and all that, and goes for heroes, you know, like and good, lesson learned. But offlane, there's been a little bit of a shift, and Brian would like to talk to you about that.
Thank you, Shiver. I feel like this patch is going to be a lot about these offlaners that I refer to as the impending doom offlaners. And what I mean by that is that to reliably do their job, offlaners are supposed to create space. And if you're going to pick them early on in the draft, if they're reliably going to do that, the best way to do it is to take that early tier 1 tower of the opponent's safe lane. And we see here in the draft that Tundra picks Lycan first round and Thunder Predator picks Broodmother first round. Both heroes with the same intent. And we're going to see at 8.5 minutes in, regardless of the net worths, yes, Broodmother is slightly ahead of the Gyro, but Lycan is 800 gold behind the Terrorblade. So neither of these heroes really won their lane, but at some point, they are going to be able to take the opponent's safe lane tower. So what happens is Broodmother's timing, very obvious from last patch, which is the level 6, and then Lycan's timing, which is the Helm of the Dominator plus usually his level 6. It's just impending doom. Eventually the safe laners are gonna be shoved out of their lane. And this, if you're looking to pick off lane this patch, fact is you're gonna have to, if you have to pick early, these are the best heroes to do it. Lycan, Beastmaster, maybe not Broodmother so much anymore after we saw Thunder Predator fall short in this game 1. But even though MNZ won his lane by 900 net worth at 9 minutes in the game, they're up by 2,000 net worth regardless. The point is, good or bad lane, 33 and Frank will be able to bully the safe lane heroes out and take the tower. And if one team has this and the other team doesn't, it's going to be much harder to win the game. And it's just that simple. I don't have much new to say other than what the panel's already said. Is I think just pictures are worth 1,000 words. So right here, 15 minutes in, we have a team fight, and we're going to take a quick picture of Sven's buff bar. And then we're going to quickly tab to Lycan's buff bar where, wait a minute, I actually have to use 2 zoom ins as it's 2 window screens wide. And when we go to the fight at 27 minutes, as my job as a weatherman is to tell you the forecast for the patch, we look once again at Sven's buff bar throughout the course of the fight. And there's actually more debuffs than buffs. And when we go to Lycan's, I didn't even know it could go past your HUD at the bottom of the screen, but it is actually extended past his neutral items on the far right. So yes, I agree with the panel. I'm happy to see that the death ball is not just the be-all end-all win every game strat. But gosh, if this doesn't say enough about what we're in for, or hopefully, you know, a sub-lever patch is needed, I don't know what does. Thank you, Shiver. I love to see how a bunch of little things in the early laning stage can add up to such a massive advantage coming out of it. And in this example, I want to show just how things can pile on very quickly, very early. And so right here, we're going to see Tiger get a D ward. I want to highlight the fact that when you get a D ward, you get 51 experience. So what happens is it takes an entire creep wave for one hero to level up, which means that it takes 2 creep waves if you have 2 heroes splitting experience to get level 2. But if you get a single deny, you're not supposed to get level 2 off of 2 creep waves. And you're going to see here that SG gets the deny. But what's going to happen is, even though they got the deny, Taiga, he's still level 2 after the second creep wave has died, which he's not supposed to be. And Tavo, he's going to get caught out by this, using the Hex to secure the Timber Chain not going off because Mickey did not have Pounce just yet. And that's going to get them first blood. So then we're going to go to the next kill where Mickey is going to do a really cool play where they're going on Theolacor, and Tavo, you're going to see he's trying to block the pounce right here, but Mickey is going to intentionally miss the pounce to go around and get the last hit on Wind Ranger. Then we're going to see, after all that happened in favor of Liquid, they're still getting pressure. This is what Timbersaw is supposed to do. He's diving tower. Mickey and Taiga are super low. Pounces just in time to get away from the shackle to make sure Timbersaw can't finish off Mickey. Taiga's going to juke through the trees, constantly spamming those stick charges, and then we're going to highlight this Fairy Fire, and he's going to use it right as he gets Timber Chain. Barely lives. His stick's coming off cooldown in 3 seconds. Meanwhile, Mickey's cleaning up Theolacor, who's already used his Wind Run, and suddenly Lion, who's barely got enough mana to use his Impale, is gonna then mana drain Tavo plus the Essence Shift stacks, which are stealing his mana, so he barely didn't have enough. You see here 64 mana out of the 70 to get the Timber Chain off. And after all said and done, they had to make so many sick plays to barely come out on top in this top lane, and then eventually it just got out of control where the kill score is heavily in favor of Liquid.
Before we talk about that more, we're first gonna hear Brian break it down.
Thank you, Shiver. Not only did they bring out the new hero mid Keeper of the Light, but they came prepared. As a hero that likes to flash farm, they're going to first enable him to be able to farm his small camp, which T1 made sure they blocked with the sentry, but they deward it before the game even gets going. And you're going to see here that at the 2-minute mark, 9 doing as expected. He's going to stack the small camp, and he's going to farm a stack small camp without missing any lane creeps at the 2-minute mark. This is just going to accelerate his XP gain rapidly after he had already pushed in the lane that you see there. So we're going to go to the next creep. And oh, this is the part where it gets spicy. So we talk about clearing your own stacked small camp at 2 minutes into the game, but how about taking the opponent's small camp at 2.5 minutes in the game as 9 nukes the enemy tier T1 small camp at 240. So he further accelerates his gold gain by taking 2 creeps away from the Magnus. He's going to then clear his small camp again at the 3-minute mark. He's then going to steal the opponent's small camp again, which he's already level 5 now, so his Illuminate's going to fully kill the camp rather than just stealing 2 out of 3. And now that he's so high level at 350, he's cleared a total of 6 small camps going into the 4-minute mark. He's then going to double stack the large camp and the medium camp. He's going to try to stack the large camp over here as well, but he was not close enough because you do have to be within 1200 range to stack camps and aggro them. But then you're going to see here, he's going to stack them again after clearing the small camp, of course, at the 4-minute mark and farming the mid wave. He's going to stack these 2 camps again. Then we're going to go to him clearing these triple stacks at 5 minutes, and that's going to net him Null Talisman and most of his Boots of Travel at 6.5 minutes into the game, level 8.5, where he's going to now gank as a Keeper of the Light, and you're going to see the absurd amount of damage, which comes out in 3 seconds due to the new patch. It used to be a second of channeling every time you leveled it up, and would end up being 5 seconds, but now it's 3 seconds. It's so much faster, and you're going to see here that you don't even have to dive when your nuke is from eons away. So, I mean, this just blew my mind to like see how prepared he came into this game with this strategy, and you know, he came up with Wyvern, and look forward to seeing this in your pubs now. Now, this is a segment that I hope Kyle will appreciate because he's always said, you know, how many team fights do you have to win the game? And here we are, T1, first team fight, 15.5 minutes in. They're going to trade their Clockwork for 9 and the use of Ravage. And you'd expect that this would mean they can turn that into a tower. However, the problem is their only tower taking ability is the Death Prophet Ultimate, which was on cooldown for this. Also, that is their only really strong team fight ability. So the problem is they have a lot of single target heroes with very little tower damage. So a minute and a half later, team fight number 2, all of which they're slightly winning, no major wins throughout all of these, but all of them going in their favor. They're going to win this one off the back of that exorcism, amongst other things, and they are going to turn this one into a tier 1 tower. So after 2 fights, they get 1 tower. So then we're going to move to the next team fight where they're taking it right outside of Roshan. And the problem with this fight is, yes, they're right next to an objective that they can take after they claim the victory. However, they use the majority of the exorcism duration during the team fight itself. So we're going to fast forward. They're going to get 4 for 1 And instead of being able to advance their game plan, they're up by 5,000 gold. These are the moments where you punish. It's not about winning these fights. It's what you get out of the fights. They walk into the Roshan, realize they have limited damage, and they're going to waste the entire time that Tundra's dead debating if they're going to kill this Roshan. So they didn't actually get anything other than the kills themselves. So later on in the game, you can feel this awkwardness that T1 has. They're up by 5,000. They want to advance towards victory. What's the next step there? And they're going to linger inside the Roche pit, considering whether or not they're going to do it. And I'd like to highlight Cuckoo's items here, as the issue I see is that they don't have any single target physical. And as the panel said, I believe it was Cinder, and he called out the pipe, and maybe a Solar Crest or a Vlad's could have really helped them be able to take this Roshan. So instead, they hang out around Roshan and they look to take another fight because they don't feel like they can just force the issue because their objective taking isn't that strong. So despite this significant advantage, they've won several fights. They're going to win this fight as well. And then we're going to follow after this, where they've made Tundra retreat into their own base, and they're going to walk back to the Roshan. And they're going to try once again to turn a map control winning team fight into an objective. And after several team fights in a row, we all know what happens here if you watch the game. But after that many one team fights, we're going to see one T1 tower taken, and then afterwards they're going to lose the Slark and actually give the Roshan to the side of Tundra. And this is just a game where I see it as one team had to win 5 to 10 team fights to win the game. The other one only had to win this one. And that just makes it really hard for you to end the game in this level of Dota.
It really does. And for Tundra, that meant that they indeed won that fight, and they took the game, took the series, means they haven't lost a single game today. On the flip side, of course, T1 has lost all their games today. But I want to talk more about Tundra, because if we look across all 4 games today, there is one clear MVP for the squad, and he's with us right now. Hey, Nine, congratulations on the series.
Hello, thank you a lot.